Good afternoon. Today I'm very happy to welcome Miss Leah Rifkin, a filmmaker, talking to us from Canada. How are you, Leah?
I'm well. How are you?
Thank you very much for joining the live.
Yeah, my
Uh, I,
pleasure.
First, I want to ask you about your beginnings. How did you get interested before studying into filmmaking, and how did you decided to study and focus on writing and directing your own projects?
Yeah, well, I it kind of started in high school, in my 11th grade year, so I was about 15, I guess, at the time. And I was in the drama class, and I was a part of the sort of, I wanted to do the school plays, and then I wanted to act up until that point. I kind of was interested in acting. I never really thought about directing or producing or filmmaking in general. I just kind of thought about potentially being an actor. And then once I was able to co-direct a school play, that kind of changed my direction. Like, so I switched immediately from wanting to act to wanting to direct. And then it was kind of through going to university after that, through the program, that I realized I really enjoyed producing, and I also really enjoyed writing, and I like story editing and also video editing. So I kind of discovered through the learning process things that I was interested in and good at and had an eye and an ear for. So that's kind of how it started, and then I just, kept going from there.
Great. Tell me, after you finish your studies, tell me how did you, focus to shape your own style and vision as a writer, director, and producer to be different from the new filmmakers among your generation?
Yeah, well, it's always a process. I think with any creative endeavors, you kind of learn as you do things. So, my first project, basically right out of school, like sort of right before I was graduating, that I was kind of starting to develop, was a web series. It was an edutainment, sort of educational entertainment series for kids or youth. And it was kind of an experiment, to be honest. Like, I just was like, I just want to create something original with some friends, and it kind of just started like that. And then I found my voice kind of in the process as the years went by. So I was developing, different TV shows and films, and kind of definitely veered more on the sort of dramatic sci-fi fantasy type side of things. So those are the stories that I tend to want to tell. I mean, I'll give an update on now where I'm at, but like sort of finding my voice took time, and finding kind of what kind of stories I resonated with and wanted to tell kind of happened as I was developing them. So yeah, I guess that kind of answers the question, but it was a process. I um, didn't really happen overnight. Like, I had to sit and actually work on projects and work with different writing partners and other people to kind of discover what felt good to me and what I wanted, what I vibed with, what wanted to tell, the stories I wanted to tell.
Yeah. Speaking of sci-fi and horror, a lot of Canadian and also American production used to film in Toronto. Maybe I remember stuff like the X-Files, and many sci-fi films and horror genres.
Mhm.
Tell me, what were your inspirations and influences, that made you saying, yes, this will be my direction in filmmaking?
Um, well, growing up, my dad would educate me quite a lot on different genres of film and TV, and I just kind of, I mean, I watched like Star Wars when I was 6. It might have been too young, but and then I grew up, and I would always sit, well, not always, but oftentimes when he was sitting and watching Star Trek, I would watch as well. And then I got like, as I got older, I watched Stargate, a lot of stars in the titles. And then films like Independence Day, and Flight of the Navigator, and like these classic sort of like old, like I don't know, they're not really old films, but like 80s films, 90s films in the sci-fi genre, E.T., that kind of just really resonated with me. Like I think it kind of brought up this idea of like, I feel like there's more out there, like there's a bigger purpose for me. That kind of how it got me started, I guess, subconsciously thinking about that. And then, beginning of this year, I did a very sort of arduous process to remember why I'm here on this earth. And that kind of really clarified and solidified what kind of stories I'm here to tell. So yeah, but growing up, it was definitely, I resonated a lot with the sci-fi genre. Although I did watch a lot of like adventure films, like The Goonies is one of my favorite movies, so I'm kind of, yes, I veer more on the sci-fi fantasy side of things, but I enjoy a lot of different kinds of films. Yeah.
Do you like to create stories related to North America? I mean, Western, characters and set pieces, related to sci-fi, folklore, horror, or your interest also, because in Africa, Asia, here I'm in Ecuador, Latin America has, the other continents. I mean, they have a lot of heritage related to sci-fi. I think so far we didn't see them enough in Western cinema.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely a lot of cultural and ethnic sort of stories that are related to, or that have origins, where stories from in a sci-fi, the sci-fi, fantasy, horror genres can definitely pull from that. I personally haven't done that as of right now. I mean, my inspiration and like where the stories I'm telling are really more of a, I guess you could say, less human cultural nature and more of a spiritual sort of all-encompassing universal nature. So it's less about the culture that they're based in and more about, sort of overarching truths that carry over all cultures. So it's less about like inspiration from a specific cultural, event or myth or something like that. And it's more of a sort of, yeah, a universal theme that applies kind of to everybody on the planet. So that's kind of where personally I draw my inspirations from. Though I do agree, like I think there's a lot of stories that can be told, and I think it's just filmmakers being inspired to tell them. That's really what it comes down to.
I mean, right now, I would like to ask you. I think you establish your own company,
Mhm.
and so you can create and develop your projects. Tell me what in the current time right now, do you have certain goals or aspiration, a plan for the upcoming period you would like to achieve through your work?
Yeah, for sure. As I said earlier, I kind of did a process to remember why I'm here on the planet at the
Yeah.
moment, and that kind of changed the trajectory of the types of projects that I was developing and working on. Um, so I'm here. A lot of all the projects that I'm now developing are hard disclosure. So it's about disclosing truths about the sort of, everyone knows The Matrix, the movie. I have access to, through a team, I have access to the back end of the real Matrix. And so I'm putting that in film to disclose it to the world. And that
Mhm.
is what I'm here to do. So that definitely shifted, knowing that, kind of remembering that, that's what I'm here to do, really shifted the kinds of projects that I'm working on. So a lot of the projects, some of the projects that I had like in development for many years have now gone into the garbage can because they just aren't in alignment anymore with what I want to do. So, upcoming projects, I'm probably in the next few weeks, maybe in the next couple weeks, I'll be releasing like a little short digital piece that I'll be putting on social media and on my website. That's kind of a taste of what's to come, but I am working on films. So the next sort of big projects that I'm developing with my company are feature films. Um, there are some TV shows, but we'll see what happens. I think the films will probably happen first. And I have other projects that I'm looking to just sell the IP and, get some money out of that to kind of grow the other things that I'm doing. So it's kind of a bit of a, I'm strategically working on projects from that sense, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Great. I want to ask you, as a rising filmmaker, did you face during the movies that you have realized already some kind of hard criticism or a strong opinions, and if that happened, how did you deal with that?
Yeah. Well, as of right now, I haven't really experienced too much of that, but I did work on a film. One of my first short films that I did actually was about physician assisted suicide, which is sort of a taboo topic. I didn't really get much sort of negative feedback on it like at the time, and I mean, I haven't it's an older short film of mine, so I'm not really promoting it necessarily at the moment, but I'm sure with regards to the new projects that I'm working on, I'm sure there will be some people, opposing and saying, oh, this is all bullshit or whatever they want to say, and honestly, the way I deal with it is just kind of accept that everyone's going to have their own opinions, and that's okay. And the thing is, if I let those things bother me as a filmmaker, I can't do what I'm here to do. So it's kind of like it's just an process of acceptance, I guess would be the answer. Acceptance that you can't please everybody. Not everyone's gonna, vibe with it. Not everyone's gonna enjoy it, and that's okay. And it's not necessarily. I mean, I'm writing these new films for everyone, but I recognize that not everyone will want to watch them, or if they do watch them, not everyone will like it. So, and that's fine.
I want to ask you, in Canada right now, an up and coming filmmaker like yourself, with her own production company and developing a lot of projects. It is easy to get funds from national or private supporter, or it's challenging so far?
Um, so the way it works in Canada, we're lucky in that we have a lot of funding bodies here. So we have national funding, national and provincial, because Canada's obviously a national country, but then we have different provinces. So each province has their own
Laws.
funding situation. Yeah. And then different funding bodies that give money specifically to people in that province. But then there are also national funders that give to everybody. So it is easy in the sense that there's a decent amount of option for people. And we also get, tax credits. If you're at a certain budget level, you can access tax credits as well. So from a film perspective, if we're talking, I mean, it's really across the board, but feature films in particular, there's definitely funding, lots of different options. The thing that makes it challenging, it is very competitive. And so the best way to get funding here is to have a really strong team. Obviously, the project itself, the creative matters, but I think if they're looking at two projects, they're both really strong creatively, they're probably going to take the one that either has a better team or has a better, more marketability. So one that's probably going to maybe get more bums in seats at a theater, or have more streams online, or whatever it is. So they're kind of, it's very competitive. So you kind of have to put like as much as you can into those applications to make it as strong as possible. So it's easy in the sense that there's options, but it's also hard because it's very competitive. So it's kind of hard to answer that question with an exact answer, but we're lucky in that I know that there's a lot of places out there, and even in the US, they don't have the things we have here. They have to go through studios and private funding mostly. So we're lucky in that sense, but it is very competitive here. Yeah.
Yes. Leah, do you have a certain advice for the young people interested into pursuing a career of filmmaking like yourself, whether in Canada or anybody will watch your video? What can you tell them?
Well, I could say a lot of things, but I probably would say, at least I'm speaking from my own what I did experience, but just do it, like to not overthink things and just kind of dive head first. Because like, let's say you have an idea for a short film and maybe you only have enough money to like film it on an iPhone, then do it. Like at least get yourself started, because the problem I find is a big block for a lot of filmmakers is they have these big ideas and they don't execute anything because they don't feel like it's possible. So maybe it's a thing of like, and this is what I did. Like I had a lot of big ideas early on that I didn't have the money to produce. I didn't have the connections to make them, to even pitch them or anything. So I started with smaller things and things that I know I could do, that still felt authentic and sort of exciting to me. So I think you just have to start. Like it's, don't overthink too much and just start doing things, because it's in the doing, it's in the action that you actually either figure out your voice or just, you know, learn how to do it if you're a new filmmaker, you know? So it's, I feel like that's the best advice I could give, is to just not overthink and just kind of just take action.
Great. Leah, I want to thank you very much for this live interview, and I wish you all the best in your upcoming projects, and looking forward to have you again when you have a new project coming up and on release.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Take care. Have a good day. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.